Good afternoon and welcome. My name is Gladys Hurwitz, and I am the Multimodal Transportation Specialist and host for this webinar session. On behalf of the Maryland Department of Transportation's Commuter Choice Maryland program, we'd like to thank all of you who are able to join us today, and we hope that you and your families are staying healthy and safe during the COVID-19 pandemic. Today is the first of 4 webinar sessions on reflections of remote work during COVID-19, where we will hear from business leaders on how they prepare their organization for remote work, including best practices for implementing a successful remote work program. Here are some quick webinar FAQs. It's important to make sure that you chose your audio preference. Use a questions window to ask us questions. We will also have a Q&A session after the presentation. The recording of the session will be available with slide decks on our website at commuterchoicemaryland.com. Let's go ahead and get started with a quick poll. How many days a week did you work remotely before COVID-19? I'm going to go ahead and launch this. And we'll take a couple of seconds. Go ahead and choose your best answer for yourself. Okay, we'll give another 2 seconds. And also just another reminder, we are recording this session. And okay, great. Gonna go ahead and close that and share the results. So it looks like the majority of you shared that really you're doing this on an as needed basis. Many of you, 29% of you, shared that your workplace actually does not offer remote work. A small percentage of you said that you actually remote work at least 3 or more days a week, and 24% of you say that you actually remote work at least 1 day a week. Okay, great. So let's start off by sharing some Commuter Choice Maryland information and resources for you to keep in mind during and post COVID-19. Commuter Choice Maryland is a Maryland Department of Transportation program that promotes alternatives to driving alone, such as public transportation, ride sharing or carpooling, van pooling, walking, biking, remote work, and flexible work schedules. All of these options are important because they help Maryland reduce congestion, conserve energy, protect the environment, and improve the quality of life for all Marylanders. We also provide resources for commuters to help them determine the best commute option that suits their needs. Our website serves as a centralized resource for commuters who may need information on transportation options, along with other valuable resources such as how to connect with a Maryland rideshare representative, information on guaranteed ride home, and our new commuter calculator to help you determine the best commute options, including how much money you could save on gas, vehicle maintenance costs, and parking cost savings. Employer program services include information on how to get a commuter benefits program started or how to expand an existing commuter program. Marketing materials are also available for download to help your employees with commute options. We also provide technical assistance to participating employers who need help with commuter benefits, such as the Maryland Commuter Tax Credit and Transportation Fringe Benefits. Business toolkits have been developed to help businesses in Maryland who are thinking about starting up a van pool, telework program, or commuter benefits program. All of these resources are available on our website. let's go ahead and do another poll. We just want to get a sense of what webinar topics are of interest to you as we offer these on a regular quarterly basis. So if you could please go ahead and just choose which topics you think would be of interest, it would be greatly appreciated. We'll go ahead and take a couple seconds to give you all some opportunity to take this poll. Okay, let me do one more second or two, and I'm gonna go ahead and close the poll. It looks like a lot of you really would like to see more best practices from Maryland businesses, which is good to hear. It looks like a lot of you also would like to learn more about how to implement a commuter benefits program. And business tax credits came in third at 21%. For those of you who answered other, feel free to email us some of your suggestions or include that in the questions box for us to take into consideration. Really appreciate that. So now it is my pleasure to introduce our guest, Miss Odessa Phillips. Odessa is the president and CEO of Aceto Consulting, is a structural engineer, transportation professional, and public engagement expert. She began her career more than 20 years ago as a structural designer and later transitioned to urban and transportation planning, becoming a NEPA professional with an affinity for bringing public outreach and communications together. She is an expert at bringing together state and local stakeholders, politicians, agency officials, special interest groups, and communities affected by projects in various phases of development. Odessa is a graduate of Howe University and the University of Maryland College Park, where she received her master's in engineering and construction project management. In 2012, Ms. Phillips founded Aceto Consulting LLC, a certified African-American women-owned business enterprise. Hello and welcome, Odessa.
Thank you, Gladys. How are you?
Doing well.
So, great. I'm very excited to be here. And so I wanted to take a couple of moments to just tell you my perspective. So I titled this talk Prepared to Pivot. And it's really because all of us are trying to figure out what's the next best thing and what's the right step. And so it's really a reflection of my perspectives on teleworking, really specifically in this COVID-19 era. So a little bit about my company. I established it about, I guess it's going on to 8 years, about 7.5 years ago. And we primarily do work in the transportation space, but we also do work with utilities, a lot of work with utilities, the environment and parks and open space. And all of these are sectors that benefit greatly from helping people understand the project. A long time ago, it was very common for projects to be implemented and people never to get an understanding or a voice in what that final project looks like. But what our company does is make sure that people are never forgotten and are always part of the process. So both in the planning side and in doing really public engagement for people. A little bit about my team. I like to call them, we're small but mighty. So there are 12 of us. We have our intern, and she's been really instrumental in helping us with creating and sustaining our real social media presence. We already had a presence, but she's really been working on growing our presence so that our clients really understand what we do and how we do it successfully. So, how does a small business adapt to COVID-19? I think the best thing to say about being a small business is that we have to be prepared to pivot and do that differently. And the advantage of being a small business is that you're a lot more nimble, and that means that when you need to make decisions, you can make them quicker. You don't have a whole bunch of bureaucracy that kind of ties you down. And so we are going to talk a little bit about how we've done that pivot and what that can mean for you and your companies as you're trying to figure out what's going to be next. So we all got the same directive: stay at home. And really, essentially, it happened overnight. And there were all of these words and terms being thrown around, you know, you're an essential company or you're not. And what did that really mean? And were you ready to prepare to do this? And now your kids are also home, and you have to be able to work with your children and still, you know, get your work done. You don't know when it's going to end. None of us do. And we really have no idea about how any of this is going to change the future. And so those were all things that we were trying to balance and figure out at the same time. So I had to take a breath. Anybody who knows me knows I'm extremely high energy, and this was a lot of information. Like most of us, we were trying to figure out how do we handle this. But what I realized is that the most important quality for successful and what appears to be indefinite telework is to have a collaborative company culture. And so that's something that I'm very proud to say we have. So we had to look, what did we already have in hand? What was already on our coffers that was going to allow us to be successful? And one of them was a telework policy. We already had one in place. It's a benefit. As a small business, it was something that we could offer that maybe could help make us appealing over a larger company. We have our staff telework 1 day a week. They're eligible after 90 days of employment. And that really, really helped because we had outlined exactly, we had relationships, we have contracts with all of our staff about what that really means. We also have flexible starting schedules and ending schedules. So our office basically opens at 7 and it runs through 6. A large part of what we do are public meetings and communicating with people. So that does mean that sometimes we're working beyond 6 p.m., but that's why having this flexible work schedule really works. Also, because we already had a telework policy, it meant that everybody had a laptop. We had to have the ability for people to do that. One of our more creative pieces was that we have a VoIP, voice over internet protocol phone system. And that meant that we actually have phones that when this COVID-19 situation arose, we could take our desk phone, unplug it from our desk, and bring it home and plug it into our modem. This was absolutely essential because a lot of our work is public facing. And because it was public facing, we needed people to still be able to call us. And you don't really want to give out your personal cell phone number to just anyone. So this was something that has been incredibly helpful. We also had a cloud-based file storage system. And, but more importantly, we had great client relationships. And based on all of the definitions, a lot of our work was still tied to essential project work or essential needs. So the companies were able to stay open even if it was remotely. So here was our opportunity for a poll question. And so Gladys, it's to find out, did people already have a telework policy in place? I'm very interested in this because just because you were working from home every now and then didn't really mean that you had a policy in place. And so very curious to know kind of whether there were details in place that allowed you to telework. Okay, we're going to close the poll and see what the answers were. Oh, so it's about 50-50. About half had, a little bit more than half had telework policies in place. Okay, that's really helpful, and you'll see why in a second. So we had to assess what we already had in place, and the best, most important part of it was a great team that had the same mission. We have core values. We worked on our core values as a team, but part of our core values, and because a lot of what we have to do is interact with the public, we have to have flexibility. We have flexible times. I already talked about that for coming to work. We have a lot of fun in our office. We always have to be looking for ways to be innovative and provide new opportunities or new ways to do things to our clients. So innovation is one of our really strong core values, but also integrity. There is a huge part about working with the public that you're building trust for your client, and that's a large part of what we're doing. And so we kind of put integrity and innovation hand in hand. We want to do the right thing all the time, but we want to find the best ways to do it. Very important to me is that it's stewardship and sustainability, that we're giving back, not just to the earth, because that's a huge part of it, but also that we're creating infrastructure, whether it be transportation or utility infrastructure, that is going to be good for the next generation. All of this is built around an entire mindset of having respect for each other. So our team works collaboratively together, and we trust each other strongly. And that really makes work to do work. And as you can see on the bottom of our slides, our company mission is that we engage the public, we educate them about what they need to know, and we empower them to make better decisions for their lives. So there were some necessary changes. We needed some pivot moves, and we needed them quickly. We needed an internal pivot, so we had to figure out what we had to do to make this shift work. But there was also an external or public-facing piece that needed to be considered. And so the first thing we knew is we were going to have to telework 5 days a week. And how are we going to be able to do that? And how are we going to communicate that? Externally, we wanted our clients to know we're still open for business. We were actually more available than we were before, because we were going to be available by voicemail, by video, by phone, whatever they needed, except in person. But the other thing is to show compassion. COVID-19 is unfortunately taken, as of today, more than 1 million people have been infected in the United States. It's taken too many lives, and we wanted to make sure we showed compassion to every person that we were interacting with. And in order to do that, we would stay consistent with who we are. So really quickly, internally, we had a huddle. And I love the game of football, and I always talk about things in football terms, but we huddled. Our management team got together. We looked at what our workload was. We looked at what our finances looked like, because for a small business, cash flow is king. It's, for any business, cash is king. So we needed a plan to make sure we could make it through this time. Then we shared it with our full team, and we've been looking to make sure we're constantly managing any HR needs. And then we prepared to execute our plan. Externally, we wanted our clients, like I said, to know we were still open, but a lot of our clients, like I said, work directly with the public, and we needed to make sure that they also were being sensitive to the public's needs, and we were helping with brand awareness and making sure that they were doing what they needed to do on social media or whatever tools that they had to make sure that they could continue working and be sensitive. Other critical commitments were our employee morale and sustaining connections, understanding the financial climate for everyone, still doing great work, and being able to shift and adjust to work demands. So we started out by putting out a message. You saw a lot of these in this era that really said, we're still open for business. We're being honest. We were being humble, because we don't know how it's going to touch how many people and in what ways. And then we were human. And then we made sure to share information that were reputable sources. As you can see, there are check marks for all of those reputable sources for where people could get more information in the state and around the country. And it was really important for us to employ and improve employee morale. So important to me was being honest and transparent. I was concerned, of course, but I sat there and we developed a plan, and I wanted to make sure everyone knew it. We update everybody when we know things. We're honest, we don't guess. But really important was to build in time for fun. So Really quick poll. I'm only going to give us about 10 seconds, but are you having company-sponsored fun time? Okay, let's go ahead and close the poll. Oh my gosh, no. So 75% or 77% said not having company-sponsored fun time. But let me show you a little bit about that. We are. So one day we were having a conference call, and unbeknownst to us, our graphic designer was pulling this together. And it was something that we were able to share on our social media to let people know that we're still open, we're working, but we might have a happy hour or two. So we start off with a coffee moment in the morning, and at the end of the week, we have a team happy hour that people could choose to participate in order to keep connected with each other. But we couldn't lose work quality, and we needed to stay focused on that. So we made sure that we had a sense of normalcy. In our morning coffee chat, we talk about work. We communicate more with our clients. We've established processes to enforce our quality, which is a little bit more difficult because we can't see each other. But one of the things I will just say really quickly is we use video conferencing even when we're internally, but also with our clients, because it allows us to show we're fully present. And that's a key part of people knowing when they're working with you, that you're focused on them. And it also helps with us speeding up our meetings because people are paying attention and not trying to multitask. Of course, we had to integrate technology, computers and laptops, our phone. I talked about our VoIP phone system, and then using Microsoft Teams and SharePoint, which is how we share our information. So is this going to be the new normal? We don't know. But if we have to do this, we have to figure out what this looks like. So we've been searching for virtual platforms. We're looking at ways that we can maintain productivity while creating healthy work and life boundaries. It's very difficult to stay in a healthy relationship when the workday looks just like the weekend. We're looking for ways to help employees continue to shine so that they can show that they're providing value to the company. And we encourage outside networking through professional organizations. And taking breaks. So are you taking regular breaks? Quick question, but it's really important for everyone to be taking a break, getting up, changing the scenery like you would do in the office. Maybe it's calling a colleague and talking or a friend, but making time to do that is really important. So let's go ahead and close that poll. So yes, so on the upside, there are regular breaks being taken. So about 75% of you, or 79%, are taking regular breaks. That's good, and you need to do that. So lastly are some telework tips. So I would say you establish your consistent working protocols, use to-do lists, share what you're going to do with others, use technology effectively. It's really easy to get drowned in email. We use Microsoft Teams chat internally, and that allows us to talk to each other without inundating our mailboxes with a lot of information. I recommend avoiding social media until you are taking a break, unless, of course, your social media is part of your work. Consider your ergonomics. You at work, your bosses are providing ergonomic chairs and sort of setups, but consider that you might need to do that at home. And like I said, communicate more frequently. Now, would you want to have to do this every day? And that's it. Wow. So people said a couple days a week. Some said that every day would be great, about a quarter. And there are about 5% that said, no, I'd rather go to work. And I kind of in that 5%. I miss people. please connect with us. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Aceto Consulting. Follow us on Twitter at Aceto LLC and on LinkedIn at Aceto Consulting. Our website is acetollc.com. Thanks so much, Gladys, for having us.
Thank you, Odessa. That was great. Now we have some time for some question and answers. If you have any questions, please go ahead and put that in the question window like you see on our screen. Odessa, post-COVID-19,
Sure.
how important do you think it will be for employers to have that option for remote work? As you saw in our poll earlier, there are a pretty large percentage of folks who do not remote work regularly. And before COVID-19, I think it's because their workplace doesn't offer it. What are your thoughts on that?
I already offered it as a benefit, and I found it to be something that my team finds such a reward that they tend to work even better with telework. We've discovered internally that we're far more productive with telework. We're not distracted by commutes. We're not distracted by trying to figure out how to navigate getting back and forth to pick up children. And so some of those distractions go away. I think it's something that should be offered. It's something that you can do with measure. You have to think it through. We spent a lot of time developing the policy ahead of time so that we could be planning for the situations where people would be teleworking.
Great. And I think you touched on this a little bit earlier, but can you share what other employee transportation options you offer at your place of work?
So like I said, we do a flexible schedule, so that allows people to adjust based on their transportation needs. We also have the telework. Our office is not as close to transit as I would like. However, there are bike lanes on the way to our office, and I use them to ride my bike from my home to the office when weather permits and when I don't have meetings elsewhere. So we're very open to that. As a matter of fact, I made sure to build that into my lease to allow us to bring bicycles into the building.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
How do you plan to address the transition back to the office once the various stages of the stay-at-home order began to lift?
So our office is an open space concept. I'm sure a lot of people have that open space concept, which makes it a little challenging. We do have a lot of space in our office still, so our plan initially is to respace the desks. We will be taking the temperature of staff before they walk in, but also asking people to self-regulate and be honest when they're not feeling well. We already had a pretty strict, please don't come to work if you're ill policy, and we will be putting more work into that for sure. Several of our staff do have private offices, but those that are sharing kind of our bullpen common space, we're looking at how we can maybe add partitions that will allow us to have a little bit more privacy and protection. We have already, as part of our practices, we have hand sanitizer in various places in our office, and we always had Clorox wipes or whatever. So we'll continue using that. We will continue to wipe down our desks and our phones regularly and use whatever we can, but we will take our time. Thankfully, a lot of our work we can do remotely. And so we'll wait until we need to be in the office to come back.
Great. Those are all the questions that we have for today, Odessa. Thank you again for your time. We really enjoyed this session.
Thank you so much for having us, and we appreciate it.
Thank you all too for viewing our webinar. Don't forget, registration is now open on our website for our next session on May 5th, where we will hear from our guest speaker, Ms. Bonnie Grassi from the Retina Group of Washington. Also, be sure to check out our Facebook and LinkedIn and make sure to follow us, and we'll make sure to follow back. Our offices do remain open during COVID-19. So if you have any questions or need assistance, feel free to call, leave a message, or email us, and we'll make sure to get back to you and help you with any of assistance that you need. Thank you again, and have a great afternoon.
You too, Gladys. Thank you.